firstly, when do you feel you have something to give? I think that's all about experience. It's not about age, but it's at what point in your career have you learned enough to be able to share, perhaps with a younger executive team, those experiences and be of value. And the second consideration is time. And sometimes that has to wait until you've finished a permanent full-time role. On other occasions, I think there are certain employers out there that actually encourage and support people going and having a non-exec role whilst having a full-time role. So I think they're the two things that I would suggest considering before really going for a non-exec role. And in terms of advice that I would give someone looking for a role, I think first of all, I'd actually think through why it is you want to be a non-exec. I don't think it's a role to look for if you're looking to make a living out of it. It's not particularly well paid. I think it's more about enjoying it. It's more about getting some reward other than remuneration, about that satisfaction of being able to add some value to a management team, add some value to an organisation, and also be fun and be perhaps in an industry or a business that you enjoy and have some passion for. In terms of being motivated and enjoy doing it and want to do it. What's important in getting a role? Is it knowledge or is it network relationships? And I'd probably say both. Certainly in my case as a retired audit partner, that technical expertise, the clients that I've been involved in, the industry that I've been involved in, is almost a given. But the relationships I had is where I got my first role. So I think both of those are really important in going about getting a role, getting the right role. I think the lessons I've learned in transitioning from full-time to the non-exec space is to have a rest first, in my case, because I did wait until I finished my full-time career. And I think it's quite important. You don't really realise how tired you are until you stop and have a rest. And take some time out to just assess, what is the right role. I mean, I was offered a number that were just not in industries that I was familiar with and just didn't feel appropriate for me. And I think you have to be brave to turn them down, but I think that's the right thing until the right role comes along. I think it's important to look at your CV. I was in the same business for 40 years. And whilst I'd written CVs for purposes of proposals for winning work, it's quite different when you actually come to write a CV for the first time in 40 years to actually get a new job. And I think taking some time, I had mine critiqued and I had it almost shredded because I talked about my executive career, and that's not really what's important. It's about those non-exec, those board positions, trustee positions. That's really what needs to be brought out. And that's a good opportunity to actually take stock as to whether you've got the right credentials to be a non-exec. And if you're struggling to complete a CV along those lines, it's a good prompt to actually think about whether there are trustee, charitable, local committees, professional bodies that you can be involved in beyond the committee that actually are quite important in helping you develop, get the right experience, and of course, fill that CV out into areas that perhaps have not been developed in the past. I think I would suggest writing up the CV as soon as possible. I think that's a good opportunity to take stock and identify any gaps. To the extent there are some gaps, I think take time to go and fill them with some possibly charitable work, trusteeships, working on committees, anything really just gives experience of being on committees, on boards, that is appropriate and relevant to a role as a non-exec. I think it's important to work on relationships. So these relationships are different for everybody, whether they're through your role in your day-to-day job or your outside life, but foster those relationships, invest in those relationships, because chances are one of them will generate a lead and opportunity that is of interest. And I think finally, I would suggest as a top tip is take your time and make sure that you pick a non-exec opportunity that is something that you feel skilled to do, that you will enjoy doing, and you'll genuinely be able to give some value to and get a lot out of it.